Alright, so over here, we have sort of this tower, and it holds all of my boxed Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on the top here, and I kind of have this Pokemon Black and White massive promotional display box. Unfortunately, it wasn't like a special edition or anything. There's nothing in it. It just kind of looks cool sitting on top there. But yeah, right here, a whole bunch of different Game Boy Advance games in the box. Over here, some of the older ones too. So you have like Wario Land 2, which was for Game Boy Color, and some even older ones like DuckTales, and the cleaning kit, everyone's favorite game. Keep going around here, and we have some Mega Man and Sonic games, and kind of Kirby, oddly placed at the end there. But yeah, I love the Mega Man Battle Network series. It's really cool. So just have a few of them in the box right there. And then over here, we kind of have the Pokemon part, and we have Pokemon Pinball on the far left, which is the only non-Game Boy Advance game here. All the other ones are like Sapphire, Ruby, Fire Red, Leaf Green, and then some ones over here that they're just ROM hacks actually, but they were put on the cartridge. And I pick those up every once in a while because I think it's kind of cool, even though I know that they're not real or official games when I buy them. I think it's just still kind of neat to give them a shot. Because sometimes it's pretty cool to see what people actually make in these ROM hacks. Sometimes they're even better than the original game, depending on what they add in. Anyway, moving down from there, we have Sega games. This first kind of level right here, we have Sega Master System games. They kind of had the plain white grid side, so nothing too exciting there. And also a few more Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that that there wasn't room for on the top. Over here, we have a few Sega Master System card games. These are the really thin ones. They kind of remind you of TurboGrafx games, but just these really thin cards that you could put into the front of the Sega Master System. And then keep going around there. And then just a few more Sega Master System games. On the shelves below that, we have pretty much all of my complete in case Sega Genesis collection. We saw all my loose Sega Genesis games earlier. But right here we have all the ones in cases and stuff. And they're all alphabetical order. I always love to keep everything in my collection in alphabetical order, if possible. So yeah, I have quite a few of them here. It goes down for quite a few more levels too and stuff like that. And also at the very end, there's even some 32X games in the box and stuff like that too. As yeah, speaking of boxes, Genesis, one of the main things was they started off with the hard plastic cases, but then later on they cheaped out and moved on to the cardboard boxes. You can kind of even see the same game here twice. One has the hard case, and then a later version of it just had the cardboard box. And then yeah, keep moving on to the end down here. You can see at the very bottom some of my 32X games that overflow just a bit down there, and also even a few of them in a few other places as well. Alright, so across from the tower with the Game Boy games and Sega Genesis games, we have one more World of Nintendo cabinet. This one's pretty interesting. At the bottom here, we have a whole bunch of just different toys and figures and things like that that I've come across. Like you just have some figures that you would actually buy new in the store. Some things like you'd get a McDonald's or Burger King and kids meals and things like that. And even some pretty old Mario toys and stuff like that you would have gotten on top of birthday cakes back in the time around like Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3. And some other pretty neat things like that. Like, so as you see a whole bunch of different Mega Mans and stuff like that in front here, with a whole bunch of different Mario things in behind too, like figures and plushes, and even Mario Kart toys and stuff like that. On the next row up, a whole bunch of different electronic games and stuff from places like McDonald's and Burger King, things like that. Just pretty, really basic kind of handheld games there. And then moving on to the left, I have some like Pez dispensers and other neat little things I've picked up over time too, some other little neat handhelds, similar things there too. Moving up one row from that, kind of just a miscellaneous shelf. Of course, a few more Mario plushes and stuff like that over on the left there. And then to the right, we have the box for my Retro Mini, which if you remember was way back. I had it loose in my Nintendo, my NES cabinet. But I have the box there, but I don't really keep it in the box because I do use it quite often. And then below that, we have an arcade stick, which is compatible with either Sega Saturn or PlayStation 1. To the right of that, we have the Ultimate Arcade Stick for Atari. And behind that, still in the box, Sonic the Hedgehog, Chaos, and Spinball, kind of a plug-and-play thing. And of course, Chaos and Spinball are the Game Gear, two of the Game Gear Sonic games. And then to the right of that, we have the Freedom Stick, and that goes along with the remote control, which was the wireless NES controller that we saw back in my NES cabinet. Unfortunately, this didn't really have any room in there, but it fit here perfectly. I mean, everything's pretty much perfectly squeezed in there from side to side, so it fit really well. And yeah, so that's pretty much like a wireless version of the NES Advantage arcade stick, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, there's just a few more odds and ends there, which look really neat on the shelf. So next shelf up is one of my favorite shelves in the entire game basement, and that is the Ace Attorney shelf. I was about to say Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, although of course it's not just Phoenix Wright these days. I mean, there's been Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, and there's of course been Ace Attorney Investigations Miles Edgeworth, which is an incredible game. So yeah, my sister and I are huge Ace Attorney fans. It's interesting to note that pretty much everything on the shelf belongs to my sister. I have my own copies of many of the things too, but she's been kind enough to kind of let me put her collection on display here, because I mean, I really love this series too. It is just absolutely incredible. So starting from the left over here, I'm just going to talk about a few of the things in front. We have all of the different games that have been released throughout the series, a whole bunch of different versions of them too, so it goes in order. So like we have the Japanese version of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, and then the English version kind of in the back there. This one right here with the really strange cover is actually the European version of the very first game. And then to the right of that, of course, the English second one, Japanese second one, English third one, Japanese third one, Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney Miles Edgeworth Investigations, and of course the unfortunately non-localized Gyakuten Kenji 2 or Ace Attorney Investigations 2, which is by far the best game in the series, and it is such a shame that so many people have unfortunately not had the chance to play through that, because it is really just the best game by far as like cases go, characters go, music goes. It's the best in everything, and it's just such a shame that it doesn't look like it's coming here. It's really sad. So in the back now, on the far left, we have the English, The Art of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney art book. And then to the right of that, we have the Ace Attorney Investigations art book, which unfortunately never came here since it wouldn't really make sense, since the second game never came here. And that's kind of a mix of both the first game and second game's art. So it's too bad that never came here, but it really is a cool art book, because unlike the first Phoenix Wright art book, which just went through characters and stuff like that, the second art book, it goes through things like background images, it goes through all the evidence and things like that. It's such a really cool art book, so it's also a shame that's not coming here too, because it's really cool. And to the right of that, like I just said, Ace Attorney Investigations 2 had the best music, so it only makes sense to have the soundtrack for it, because I mean, it really is incredible. I mean, Ace Attorney games usually have awesome music. Well, it's even more awesome. I mean, some people might not think that's possible, but it really is. It's just that good. And like, I'm going to say it a million more times after this too, but I mean, it's such a shame it never came here. To the right of that, Gyakuten Saiban 4, or Apollo Justice, Special Edition in the box, only released in Japan, and that came with a Japanese version of Apollo Justice, as well as the Ace Attorney Encyclopedia DS game, which included all of the information from the first three Ace Attorney games, including the special case in the first game, and it lets you listen to all the music from them, read all the profiles of characters from those games, read all the information of the evidence and stuff like that. So it's a really cool game too. On top of that, just a few special edition things there, like the special edition Japanese Ace Attorney stylus for the DS, and then to the right of that, I believe it was a pre-order bonus Phoenix Wright plush that you could get. I think if you pre-ordered Trials and Tribulations, you got that. To the right of that, we have the Gyakuten Kenji special edition that only came out in Japan, and that included a special edition Ace Attorney Investigations themed DSi, as well as the game, which is sitting on top there, since it's easier to get to and play and stuff like that, so you don't always have to open up the box. To the right of that, on the very back there, we have a flyer for the Gyakuten Saiban movie, which came out in Japan not too long ago, and I believe it's being showed in different places around North America too, at different film festivals and like that at the moment. I haven't seen it yet, although I'm really looking forward to that. And then to the right of that, right here, we have the Japanese version of Phoenix Wright 3 for the Game Boy Advance, because what some people might not know is originally the Ace Attorney series, games 1, 2, and 3, were on the Game Boy Advance, but that was only in Japan, and then the DS versions were actually just kind of like remakes with the new added features of the touchscreen and stuff like that. The only thing they really changed, other than adding the touchscreen and making things look a bit nicer and sound a bit better, is the very first game, the Rise from the Ashes case, was never actually in the Game Boy Advance version. As anyone who's played the series will know, that takes advantage of a lot of the DS's features, like the microphone and using the touchscreen to view evidence in 3D and stuff like that. And then below that, just some of the manga and stuff like that. Not too many of the English one, although, well, we have the two kind of case files there. And then two of the English actual manga beside it, although to the right of that is all 5 of the Japanese Phoenix Wright manga, and then 2 of the Edgeworth manga on the very right there. So yeah, that is the Ace Attorney shelf. I absolutely love Ace Attorney. It's just such a great series, and I'd love to see Investigations 2 come here someday. I really hope it does. But overall, that's just one of my favorite shelves in the basement. It's just so neat. And thanks again to my sister for letting me put all that stuff on display. Like I said, I have most of it myself, although her collection trumps me just a bit. It's really nice to see all of that on display there. Alright, so across from the Ace Attorney shelf and that World of Nintendo Captain overall is sort of my mini arcade. And I have 4 arcade machines here, all of which are in perfect working order. And the first one on the left over here is Outzone. Now, Outzone is probably a game that a lot of people have never really heard of. So I mean, it's what hasn't really been featured on any like collections that have been like of arcade games that have been re-released for consoles or things like that. So overall, a lot of people have never really heard of it or even played it, but it's actually a really good game. It's kind of like a run and gun shooter, and it's very difficult. And considering, I mean, a lot of arcade games were back in the day, they really wanted you to get your quarters in there. But I mean, it's actually just it's a really fun game, and I'm really happy to have the machine, because I mean, it's a lot of fun, and you can't really play it anywhere else, because like I said, it's not featured on any arcade collections or anything like that, which have come out for consoles and stuff like that in recent years. I also have for this machine a 1943 and the Battle of Midway board. This is not the original machine for Outzone by any means. This is just a machine that someone made for it. But overall it works great. And it also takes the same kind of board that 1943 and the Battle of Midway takes. So I have the board for this, so I can swap it out with the Outzone board if I want to. It's actually really like 1943. Over here to the right, we have my 4-slot Neo Geo MVS machine. So a multi-video system machine, so it can hold up to 4 cartridges, and you can just go through them by pressing the select game button, and I really like this. Unfortunately, this is a bit beat up. I got it not too long ago, so I still have some repairs and stuff to do on it. I lie. I mean, I haven't had it for too long, but it's long enough I should have gotten around to touching it up by now. But I haven't, for whatever reason. It still works fine, even though the paint's a bit messed up on it. Of course, I didn't get it new. But yeah, so anyway, it holds 4 different cartridges, so you can select through them and stuff like that, and it even tells you how many credits each player has. So overall, it's a really neat machine, and of course, the game that it's showing right now is Neo Geo, although it's not showing Neo Geo right now. Well, it is showing Neo Geo right now. It's, the game's in it is Metal Slug. I said Neo Geo because it was coming up on the screen. But yeah, Metal Slug, a game not a lot of people are, of course, probably very familiar with. A great series, all of which was on the Neo Geo MVS. Very fun games. To the right of that, we have Arkanoid, a game which a lot of people probably know as that game with the sort of knob here, and we talked about it earlier too, with the NES version. I had the little NES controller for it, and of course, once the demo comes up in hopefully like 2 seconds, it's that game where you have the paddle at the bottom, then you have the ball that bounces up, and the point is to break all of the blocks, except for the gold ones, because you can't break the gold ones, and the silver ones are a pain, because they take like 3 hits or something to break. But anyway, Arkanoid's a really fun game, and yeah, I'm really happy to have that as part of my collection. And over to the right, my last arcade game is Rampage. Now, Rampage is a pretty cool game. It's 3 players, and the point is, of course, to pick your monster and then destroy as much of the city as you can before getting destroyed yourself. It's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the bottom, the plastic's a bit cracked, but I mean, game works perfectly, so I'm not going to complain too much about minor things like that. Very fun game. Pretty old, and still get 3 friends, 2 other people together, and it's a lot of fun to play with a group of people. So in here, so now we're kind of going behind that World of Nintendo cabinet that had the Ace Attorney stuff on it, and we're sort of entering the pinball section now. Pinball is really cool. My dad is actually a huge pinball fan, so all of these machines belong to him. And so right here we have Hot Hand. Now Hot Hand was the first machine he got, And it was one that he played a lot with one of his best friends in college. So years later, he went and seeked out a machine of his own. So this is it. They all work perfectly. They're a lot of fun to play. I mean, I know pinball, it's not the most popular thing today, but it is still a lot of fun to go back and play them every once in a while. This one doesn't have any music or anything like that, just beeps and boops and stuff like that when you hit bumpers, but it's a lot older than the other ones. Moving to the left, you have Big Guns. Now, Big Guns is really cool, a lot more advanced than Hot Hand. You got multi-ball and stuff like that. And you even have these cannons down here where the ball actually shoots out of them and goes through here. And it's a really neat effect, and it's actually really cool to see the whole bunch of the different things that this machine has on. And unfortunately, it's really hard to kind of play and show it all while a video is being done, but overall, it's a really cool machine. And I mean, I'd say play it if you ever get the chance, but I mean, what places actually have pinball these days, unless it's like popular movie themed ones like Indiana Jones or something like that. Over here to the right, we have Monte Carlo, my dad's newest machine. It's pretty cool. It features a neat roulette wheel in the middle where every once in a while it will start to spin and you'll get bonuses and stuff depending on where it lands. So that's actually really neat. And then overall it features a lot of neat things like a 10 million point flashing sign and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of different levels and things like that. So overall it's a really fun machine. And yeah, pinball's a lot of fun, and these are overall 3 really fun machines to have. To the right, just really a miscellaneous Pokemon shelf, really. I mean, different toys, plushes, board games, stadiums, things like that, which don't really fall into any other kind of category. There's not really anywhere else to put them. This could be a lot more organized, and it will be someday, but at the moment, it's what you see. Kind of a mess, but lots of cool Pokemon stuff, both old and new. And behind you, the back of that World of Nintendo shelf, it's not going to show up at all on the camera, maybe if you bend down a bit, but a whole bunch of different computer odds and ends in here, like Commodore 64s, Commodore 64 floppy disk drive, some computers and stuff like that. So yeah, overall, it's a whole bunch of different random computer odds and ends in here, which I wish I had more places to put, but unfortunately, at the moment, that is where they have ended up. Alright, so I believe that's it. We started out in the big room, and then we came out here and saw the arcade machines and pinball machines and stuff like that. So we're pretty much done. So thank you very much to everyone who watched all the way to the end. I really appreciate it, and I really hope that you enjoyed. And overall, thanks to all of my subscribers and supporters. I made this video for you. I know I made one a few months ago, and things have really changed a lot around here. So I really wanted to make a new one, and I really hope that everyone enjoyed. So thank you very much for watching, and see you later.